Night City, an autonomous city-state situated along the border between North and South California. In Cyberpunk 2077, she's overrun with corporate corruption, organised crime, less than organised crime I suppose, and of course gang violence. And as you can imagine, being situated in a world where technology has truly gone too far. Amidst the advancements of cybernetic body enhancements, humanity itself has become something to be dispensed with. And in this corporate, gang-infested cesspit, masquerading as a city, the man-made horrors can at times feel endless, and yet, every once in a while, simultaneously familiar. Hello everyone. As you can probably tell, we're diving into Cyberpunk 2077 to unravel some of the game's secrets, mysteries, and otherwise dark and entertaining stories. Some of you have been asking me to get familiar with these neon-soaked streets for a while, and, well, who am I to deny you? And where better to start than the depraved doings of a twisted serial murderer, one who goes to elaborate lengths to befriend and then ensnare his victims. A vile animal rising from the ashes of a troubled childhood, exploiting the very troubled stock he emerged from. Join me today as we unravel the story of the Meatman. So the first thing we can find in this world about this so-called Meatman is a news article that crops up quite frankly everywhere. But one reliable location where you can happen upon this article is in Victor Vector's Ripperdoc Clinic, situated behind Misty's Esoterica in Little China, Watson. You'll know the location, you've been there in the plot. Vic will be sat there with some nondescript boxing on the television, but on one of the screens laying around we will be able to read a rather startling article. It's titled Meatman Strikes Again and reads as follows. It seems the killer known as the Meatman has claimed yet another life, his fourth by our count. The victim this time, 23-year-old Janet Bailey. Night City Police previously issued a formal statement about Meatman in which they claimed no such serial killer prowls the city streets, but the truth is far less comforting. Establishing connections between the murders proved difficult, but our investigators got their hands on reports that show the victims all died in the same way. The specifics are too graphic to describe in detail here, but two similarities stand out. Firstly, all the victims died of a bullet to the head fired from a gun used to slaughter cattle. Secondly, the bodies exhibited scarring characteristic of burns from a red-hot branding iron. We got a chance to speak with one of the NCPD officers assigned to the group tasked with tracking down Meatman. This guy's a real psycho. Extremely dangerous and still out there somewhere. And then the article trails off. Now, it should be said throughout Night City this article crops up on a lot of screens. It appears to be an instance of generic world building. So, to begin with, we have very little cause to believe that we'll run into this Meatman. Nonetheless, he's out there somewhere and appears to be incorporating agricultural tools in his modus operandi. This tells us we're dealing with a farmer, perhaps particularly one dealing with cattle, if indeed we're dealing with anything at all. But as we spend more and more time in Night City, the chances are good sooner or later we'll happen upon evidence of an active serial murderer. In the city centre's downtown portion along the docks, here on the map, we can make a rather disquieting discovery. A youthful-looking woman deceased in a crate with evidence of foul play. A bloodied tripod laying on the ground to match the bloodied camera found next to her body. Now it's clear she didn't casually come down with a case of bleeding out in a box. Without much analysis, we can come to the conclusion that she fell victim to another's brutality. But it's what's found in her possession that bursts who that could be wide open. A conversation record between what's presumably herself, Lena Borowitz, and somebody else who remains anonymous. And that conversation went as follows. Sorry, got this number by email. Apparently you have information about the serial killer I've been writing about.
Correct. First-hand information.
Do you know him?
I do. Very well, in fact. Since birth, you could even say. I read your articles. I want to help. Let's meet downtown. I'll send you the exact coordinates.
Thanks. You're not only helping me, but all of Night City.
Oh, believe me, the pleasure is all mine.
And he really wasn't joking when he said the pleasure was all his, because I get the feeling that Miss Borowitz didn't enjoy their meeting. It would seem this poor lady was a journalist investigating a serial murderer, and unbeknownst to her, she made contact with the killer himself. And so they met up and he killed her. It's unclear if he departed from his modus operandi to do so. After all, tying up the loose end was the priority of this particular meeting. And it should be stated that it is entirely unclear if this is the work of the Meatman himself. After all, Night City is a rather pagged place. There may very well be more than one, if not several, active serial killers operating within its boundaries. Nonetheless, Lena Borowitz here was a journalist, and she'd been writing about this serial killer. And through journalism is how we found out about the Meatman. And what could possibly make eliminating a journalist so important to this killer is the media noise. And as we see in this Meatman Strikes Again article, the NCPD are reluctant to confirm there is an active serial killer, meaning Meatman's greatest foe is not law enforcement, but rather press frenzy. So while there's no way to know for certain if this killing and the Meatman killings are linked, and finding dead bodies in Night City is hardly an unheard of phenomenon, we at the very least know this death was the doing of one who has killed before, and will likely continue killing in the future. Furthermore, these killings have media attention, and we know of at least one active serial killer in Night City who has media attention at present. Nonetheless, that is no definitive link, and this could very well be another infamous serial murderer whose news articles we simply don't get to read for game reasons, because games are unintentionally iffy like that at the best of times. However, this is not the end of the story for getting to the bottom of who could possibly be this flesh fellow. To unlock this apparent continuation, we'll need to complete the side job I Fought the Law, in which V, for complicated reasons, investigates the death of Night City's mayor. It's in doing this that we meet a Rosa named River Ward, a jaded detective with an unbreakable sense of justice. He drives a pickup truck, but look, nobody's perfect. And let's just say he's a bit of a man-mountain with a swanky jacket. You won't be forgetting him anytime soon. Nonetheless, sometime after completing I Fought the Law, he'll give you a buzz.
River.
V, hey. I need your help.
NCPD asking a freelancer for help. Things gone that far to shit?
I shouldn't talk about this on the holo. We gotta meet.
When and where? Tell me.
Glenn, tonight. I'll flick you the details. Will you make it?
Do my best.
Thanks, V. Till then.
This will dawn the side quest The Hunt, where upon meeting River we'll find him in something of a solemn mood. And before there's too much time for small talk, he'll lay out why, in the form of showing us a news report.
Hello, my name is Arif Iqbal, and this is WNS News. Today's story. A routine roadside inspection led the NCPD to the trail of a dangerous abductor and murderer. The incident occurred at the intersection of 7th and 15th Avenue. The following police footage was captured at the scene.
1038, I repeat at 1038. Registration 2886244. We're exiting our vehicle now.
Copy that.
Out of the car! Hands up! Easy, officer. Relax. Shut your mouth! Oh, shit. We have a 1053 and a 1054. I repeat, a 1053 and a 1054.
The boy from the footage is LeVar Martinez, age 17. His parents reported his disappearance over a month ago. Unfortunately, LeVar's life could not be saved. His body could not withstand the severe septic shock he suffered. Autopsy reports reveal the teenager was given dangerously high levels of hormones, anabolic steroids, and stimulants. The possessions and genetic material of 7 other missing teens were also found in the car, belonging to one Anthony Harris. Unfortunately, their fates remain unknown. Although the criminal widely known as Peter Pan survived the gunshot, he has not regained consciousness, making interrogation impossible. Please stay tuned to WNS News for developments in the story.
Now, I'm not entirely sure why that news report needed such terrible music. However, we learn of a serial murder case known as the Peter Pan case, and the now captured culprit was a fellow named Anthony Harris, and River has reason to suspect his missing nephew was abducted by Harris.
The kid was wearing Randy's shoes. Oh, Jesus.
The modus operandi is departed from the Meatman in that article we've already read, as it seems Harris was killing his victims by pumping them full of hormones, stimulants, and anabolic steroids, which does not line up with the use of a firearm typically utilised to slaughter cattle and branding of the bodies, but bear with me, as the hunt sees us tasked with helping River locate his nephew Randy. And our first stop in that investigation is an empty NCPD station. Our objective is to acquire the means necessary to braindance Harris's memories, in hopes it'll yield crucial proof of where Randy was being kept. Interestingly, I found that generic Meatman article on a computer in here, and what I can only assume is a Death Stranding Easter egg. Furthermore, on another computer we can learn about his injuries, in a file titled Subject AH Report Filed to NCPD. And the long story short, he was shot in the head and is now in a coma with a 0.6 chance of ever regaining consciousness. So with a 1 in 167 chance give or take of ever waking up, it's rather likely that Harris will never be a threat again. But with victims believed to still be missing, we must enter the twisted mind of the madman in hopes that it yields answers. Sadly, all we get is a confrontation with a medical doctor named Yowan Packard, who is less than happy that we've broken in and are unlawfully searching the premises for information on Harris, and while she's reluctant to help us, River provides a little bit of encouragement. Well, by encouragement I mean a bit of blackmail.
Harris's dream, BD. Where is it?
He isn't dreaming.
What? Why?
A bullet damaged his cerebral cortex. We get only dissonant urges. Pieces.
I'd like to try audiovisual stimulation.
But he isn't on the spectrum.
A favorite song or movie helps you reach the kids. Might be worth a try.
I am aware of the similarity. Hypothalamus stimulation and hormone production. But Harris is not a child. I have never tried the procedure on an adult.
Any reason you haven't?
Because, unlike River, I went to med school and studied neuroscience. And not by reading about it over someone's shoulder on the metro.
Let's try it.
We don't even know his preferences.
I'll find something. I mean you're willing to try?
Just go.
And so now we've got to investigate Harris's preferences and find something that will provoke dreaming. So the best lead we have becomes investigating how Harris selects his victims.
Could tell me where we're headed, though. To Joss's. Randy's mom. She thinks he just ran away from home.
On the drive over to his sister's, River paints the picture of Randy being a troubled youth. His father was killed and he's enjoyed a petty life of crime.
Tell me about Randy. What kind of kid he is?
Petty theft, drugs, running away from home. That kind.
Cop uncles really see the best in you.
There are people who always find their way into trouble. Randy's one of them.
And so we venture forth to Randy's neck of the woods in hopes that we'll find a link to Harris there. Randy's mother, Joss, despite having a cold relationship with her cop brother, grants us leave to search Randy's trailer, where the clues begin to flow freely. We find evidence that he likely has a drug addiction, and proof that he's likely experiencing a bit of an existential crisis, as suggested by reading material found throughout his home. But most interestingly, an expensive computer hidden under his bed.
No chance Randy could afford hardware like this. Way too pricey.
After using some environmental clues to figure out what his password is, we gain access.
Liberum arbitrium.
That did it.
And inside we find a treasure trove of information. In the files we find evidence that he's attempting to write a novel, along with a file simply titled ATT Cart Video. It's a looped cartoon and...
Something deeply fucked about that cartoon. My skin's crawling.
It shows a caricature of a dairy farmer, seemingly abusing his malnourished livestock. It's quite a disturbing video, not only because it's inherently messed up, but also because it feels like a bit of an analogy for my Red Dead content. In the Messages tab, we find further information suggesting Randy is grappling with a drug problem, and a conversation between him and his girlfriend, Natalie, as seen in the picture on his desk, telling her to check out a website called Drugs Are Bad and then clicking on the image with people in it. And sure enough, that site is open on the Net tab, and it bears the facade of a website intended to help those grappling with a drug addiction, a non-profit organisation whose intent appears to be to help. But clicking on the red people as suggested by Randy reveals a hidden underside. Tony's Shelter. It reads, "Welcome to Tony's Haven, the place you've been looking for, the place where you can become the best version of yourself thanks to Tony. I live here with my friends. They come here because they were fed up with seeing their life go to waste, just like you. Think of me as a farmer who looks after his livestock. Get acquainted and stick around. Together we'll show those old farms what we're capable of. No idea what I'm talking about? Don't worry. I'll explain everything in good time, but it's time for you to decide. Do you want to remain a shadow of yourself, or become the person you always dreamed of being? Come on down. I know who you are. You're the boy that's been rejected by society, left to fend for himself, misunderstood by his family and deprived of real friends. I was once like you. You can stay here as long as you like, because you just found your new home. I have a secret, special treatment that will not only get you back on your feet, but also free up that weight from your mind and shoulders, make you limitless. Everything you need to bust out of your shackles, you'll find them in my haven. You'll become superhuman, resistant to sickness, strong, healthy, invincible. But before we do that, how about we get to know each other first? Shoot over a message at Anthony34 at ncity.drugsarebad.pub. Remember, you're one of the chosen ones.
Guy preyed on troubled kids. Made habit to target boys like Randy.
In the Files tab, we'll find a deleted file bearing a familiar name.
There was a file here. Deleted, looks like. But the name's still there. That name. Wasn't the video file on Randy's comp called something like that? Hey, look. The name of this cartoon matches the missing file on Harris's page.
In Randy's Messages tab, we can find extensive emails between him and Anthony34, believed to be Anthony Harris, where we can see how expertly Harris manipulated Randy.
This guy baited Randy like a pro.
Sending him gifts, offering support, becoming his confidant, using the illusion of empathy to gain Randy's trust, culminating in an agreement to meet in person.
River, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
No. There's no way. Why would he do that?
Not only did they agree to meet, but it looks like Randy was as excited as any kid on his way to a theme park.
Fuck. This creep definitely scrambled Randy's head.
And thus we've uncovered how Anthony Harris, Peter Pan, selected his victims, and Randy was most certainly one of them. As for this mangled video...
That's what we needed to find for Yawin. V, we've got it.
Randy must have downloaded it.
Sure, but V, don't you get it? This could be the key to Harris's mind.
Here's hoping.
With a bit of extra skill, you can also figure out Harris's IP address, but as you can see, I lacked for those. Nonetheless, we've come away potentially having figured out how to provoke dreaming in Harris's coma.
Sending it now. Okay. Says she'll get back to me by morning. And that I am a son of a bitch.
This gives us a moment of downtime to evaluate what we know about Anthony Harris so far. We know his modus operandi does not exactly match that of the Meatman as suggested in the article. However, if this video and his own self-described farmer's analogy are any indication, Harris has a farming background and access to farming tools, something that would also appear to be true of the Meatman. And so there are similarities between the Peter Pan killings, even if the inconsistencies are still suspect. Nonetheless, outside a heart-to-heart with Joss shining a further spotlight on Randy's domestic situation, all that remains is to wait for an update on Harris's braindance.
Hang in there, Joss.
And sure enough, before too long, River has news on that.
Yawin called. It worked. The cartoon. He's dreaming.
You got the BD?
Right here. Slot it in. Jack into the computer.
Prepare yourselves, because we're about to dive into the mind of a nutcase.
What's the matter with you, Anthony? I have to report this. I hope you understand that. This isn't normal behavior. Anthony, you killed Liam's turtle.
He was sick. He wouldn't eat, stayed in his shell. I just wanted to help him.
By injecting him with HGH? What were you thinking? Is this something your father taught you? Good people took you in, extended their trust. This is how you repay them? Your friend died. I understand. But that is no excuse.
Fuck you.
What did you just say? Okay, I've had enough. Principal's gonna hear about this. Your foster parents, too. I see. Like father, like son.
Don't you dare talk about my dad!
That's right, you little shit. I know it all. Farm failed. Dad put a bullet in his head.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! You can't talk about my dad, you prick! You can't! You can! He was sick, weak. I just wanted to help him.
The first memory shows a young Harris in a confrontation with a teacher at his school. His mental state here is fragile, constantly hallucinating both auditory and visual. While we do learn he injected a turtle with human growth hormone and killed it in a bid to help it, we also learn he attended a public school in Laguna Bend that would be deliberately flooded and turned into a reservoir. Beyond that, what we understand is that Harris has had a tough upbringing, and that will be further validated by the second brain dance.
Tony, come here!
Yeah, Dad?
You forget something? I asked you a question!
I don't know.
Choline and methionine levels. See anything odd?
Too low?
You were supposed to check before school. What do you gotta say for yourself? Cow's gonna die because of you. Gonna kill it like you killed your mama.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, just dial up her hormones. And shut off that goddamn cartoon! How many times I gotta tell you not to leave it like that, Half the day I spent trying to turn that shit off.
That's our cartoon. Little Tony really seemed to love it.
Guess that'd be that.
This event appears to be further back in his memory and shows Harris much younger, aiding his father on a farm. We see how his father was abusive towards him, in this instance chastising him for allowing a cow's hormone injection levels to get too low, and how the failure to monitor this will result in the cow's death, just like how Tony supposedly killed his own mother. Whether or not that's his dad being a bit of a dick is unclear, but what is clear is Harris's home situation was far from stable, but furthers the notion put forward in the previous brain dance that he has an extensive understanding of hormones, which may contradict the idea that Harris is the Meatman as stated in this news article, where the deaths are more violent. The third brain dance fast forwards in time and shows us something more disturbing.
Looks like Peter Pan turned this farm into a goddamn final bastion. Fuck me. He treats the kidnapped boys like cattle.
And where are you up to, Mike? Come here, you rascal. You'll hurt yourself. Tony'll take good care of you. Easy now.
Noteworthy details here include the fact that the Meatman article actually shows up within this brain dance. By the looks of things, it's the same generic article, but it shows he's paying attention to the Meatman case. Away from that, we're learning that on his farm, he's treating his victims like cattle. And for that, I think it's fair to say the word disturbing really doesn't cover it. What's more disturbing is watching him approach a victim desperate to escape, knowing he doesn't have a chance in hell at getting away. No matter how hard he fights, Harris's inhumane treatment has left him simply too weak to fight back effectively. Nonetheless, from this brain dance we also learn the location of his farm. Thanks to sounds, we know it's situated near a landfill site, and with visual verification it can be easily narrowed down to Edgewood Farm in the Badlands, meaning River now knows where he needs to go to save his nephew. But of course, until we get there, whether or not he's even still alive is a big if. And so, following concluding the brain dance, V and River rush to Edgewood Farm, desperate to make it in time.
Grab something!
River, this is the farm. We got it.
The farm is heavily secured with turrets, suggesting that even if his victim in that brain dance got away, he'd have been mauled the moment he got outside. And should we head into the house first, rather than rushing across a minefield to the barn, we'll find yet more evidence confirming this to be Harris's property. We find reading material that suggests Harris was involved in learning how to influence and manipulate people. And upstairs we find his personal computer. Within the Messages tab, we can see his attempts to manipulate others to varying degrees of success. This man is a well-versed, experienced monster, and his grounds are riddled in mines, making navigating to the barn a precarious exercise. Nonetheless, access can be gained via the roof, and it's once inside that we come face to face with the horror. A room full of Tony's human cattle, some alive, some dead. Among their ranks we find Randy. Whether or not he's still kicking by the time you get here depends entirely on how well you gathered clues on the way. But thanks to a swift intervention, we managed to save his life. But not just his, others trapped here too.
Alive? Whoa, easy there, easy now. Hey, you're alright now.
But unfortunately, not everybody.
Been dead a few days already.
It would seem this is how Harris killed people. He pumped them full of hormones under the guise of treatment, and they eventually expired. Why? He thought it was helping them. Just like he pumped a turtle full of HGH and killed it, forced to become obsessively attentive thanks to his less than likable dad. But now, thanks to V and River's intervention, his twisted killing spree, egged on by a very troubled childhood indeed, has, at long last, met its conclusion. Peter Pan has been stopped, and with any luck he'll never kill again. But was he also the Meatman? You see, this is where things get a bit unclear. Harris is referred to in-game exclusively as Peter Pan. However, there are some similarities to this article about the Meatman. Not necessarily the modus operandi, but the suggestion that it speaks to a farming background. Thanks to the third brain dance, we also know that Harris has been paying attention to the Meatman case. Perhaps he has something of a personal interest, or perhaps it's just a generic thing to pop on the screen. After all, it is on all three of them. And then of course there's the fact that while no source in-game explicitly states that Harris is the Meatman, the word is used in the game files for files attached to him. So at the very least there was at one point intent from CD Projekt Red to somehow link the Meatman moniker to a version of Anthony Harris's character, but ultimately the story developed to Harris kidnapping young men and killing them gradually by pumping them full of hormones, steroids and other drugs. Whereas the Meatman in the article shoots his victims, with the one mentioned in the article being a young woman. Although it mentions also scarring them with a branding iron, and the word scarring here is quite interesting because it implies that the wound inflicted healed. We know Harris's modus operandi as seen in the game developed when he was much younger, so it's unclear how the information presented in the article could entirely be attributed to him, but of course there's always excess and failures and people who perhaps learn the truth too soon that might push Harris to tie up loose ends and at times be forced to abandon his primary modus operandi and his victim profile of choice. But that is stretching at the best of times. So who knows, maybe the Meatman is still out there stalking the streets of Night City. All I know is you can find dead bodies around every corner. Night City is an insanely bloody place. I would be amazed if there weren't more murderers out there. Even we, the player, fit that bill at times. Nonetheless, the fact that Meatman refers to files that pertain to Anthony Harris means there is no Meatman to find in the game, if not Harris. So, for simplicity's sake, either he is the Meatman, or said Meatman is nobody we can find in the game. One thing is abundantly clear. Once upon a time, a deeper link was likely intended, but ultimately Harris ended up repping the Peter Pan alias. Whichever name you use for him though, his quest in this game is perhaps one of the most chilling that Cyberpunk has to offer. As for the murder of Lena Borovitz, could she have been one of the few to get too close to Harris's secret? Or could she be the dirty work of another depraved lunatic? Maybe the true Meatman is still out there, and she fell victim to him. All I know is, I need a nap. I'd like to thank you all for watching my first dive into Cyberpunk related content in the vein of content that I enjoy making the most. I do hope that you've enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section of course, and make some suggestions for what in this game I should cover next. I have a handful of ideas, but it's always great to build off the back of those and see what people think. Nonetheless, if you did enjoy, be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff if you want to, of course. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, please take care and goodbye.
The story of the teens abducted by Anthony Harris, known also as Peter Pan, has reached a happy ending. Thanks to an anonymous tip, the NCPD managed to reach them in time. The rescued teens remain in critical but stable condition. Harris held the boys aged between 13 and 18 on his abandoned farm. This heinous case is just another example of Night City's continued moral corruption.